back to another one that
Okay.
was sent out to everyone. And it's question number 8. What are your thoughts on one or several of the recent ministerial orders, parental notification of preferred pronoun use, or eligibility of athletes in sport according to gender, or the opt-in change to instruction about human sexuality? You can choose to speak to all of those or any one of those, whichever you like to.
Well, I'll maybe speak to the issue around sport. So I believe that it's difficult enough for young people to join a sport or participate in a sport. And so I just think it's all sports, all kids. That's my bottom line. So that would be the answer there. The use of pronouns. I respect people if they use pronouns or if they choose sort of not to use pronouns, but the research would suggest that the use of a pronoun really does sort of support people's identity, and so again, to me, it's a choice. But I think if someone uses pronoun, that's fine. If they choose not to or choose not to, then that is okay too. I think we have to respect all people.
And how do you feel on the parental notification aspect of that? So for, I believe it's
under yes, yeah.
That it needs consent, and over it just needs to be communicated.
Mm-hmm. Well, as a school board trustee, when it comes to legislation, sometimes when the legislation says this is how it will be, I don't really want to go back to the conversation about sort of COVID and masks or immunization or any of those things, but we do have to recognize that when we receive a mandate, then we do our best to try to fit the mandate but still meet the needs of parents and students, respecting all.
Thank you. Did we touch on the opt-in change, or did you want to touch on that one at all?
I mean, I'm fine to opt in because we'll be going into a blast of the past, because I was a public health nurse when I first graduated, and so I actually went into the schools and did we called it sexual health sort of education at the time. But again, it goes back to respecting parents, and you know what parents are asking for, and what the government is listening and hearing what they're saying. And so again, it's up to us to then set policy. When we receive legislation, we have to set policy and try to manage and sort of. Sometimes I sort of think I like to meet in the middle. I sometimes will say, oh, I'm Switzerland, you know, because oftentimes on an issue, there's sort of what he said and what she said, and somewhere in the middle sort of lies the truth. So I think with any policy or legislation that we're dealing with, we really, as a board, we try to look collectively and make the best decision, no matter what the legislative issue is.
And on that front, on the opt-in, just so I'm understanding, if you were to advocate to the government on doing an opt-in program or an opt-out program, do you have a leaning on that way?
My leaning is really around efficiency. So I think some of the challenges with opt-in or opt-out is it can be very difficult, and so I would tend to lean towards what is most efficient and effective for the teacher.
Okay, thank you.
I disagree with all three.
Okay.
Of course, they're mandated. We will do what is required. I'm not going to tell anyone to act against the law, but anything that discourages children in sports, I'm against. It's hard enough to encourage girls to participate and parents to volunteer and teachers, other support staff to be participating and managing teams, and you're adding these layers of administration on top. I disagree with anything that asks you to identify yourself any further in a way that sex by birth. You register your school with a birth certificate. They know what gender, what sexual organs your child was born with. Asking for an administration task at a later stage when you're really trying to encourage more kids in sports doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what the numbers are of children that are trying to participate in female-only leagues, but it's only in female-only leagues where this requirement is added. So why is this? I just disagree all around. I'm an immigrant, so the thought of adding citizenship to driver's license, I don't love. We are bordering a country where there is a requirement for somebody who looks different to then prove that they're a citizen of that country and legally able to be there. Just because they walked down the street and they looked like someone who came from someone else, I feel like asking children to identify, I'm just against.
Yeah, no, thank you. Parental notification, preferred pronoun, or the opt-in change for human sexuality. Do you want to touch on those? If not, it's okay.
Again, I dislike this.
Yeah.
In my family, my children are coming home and we're having discussions, and often I have different opinions than some of the things they're being taught in school. That is a great opportunity for critical thinking.
Sure.
And, there are going to be whole people that will be different from me, that will act differently from me, that will have different opinions. It's not a terrible thing for them to be exposed to both and have a discussion about it and then form their own opinion. When it comes to a gender pronoun, I don't know how many children this is actually an issue with in schools. This again feels like another huge administration requirement for maybe not enough of the population. And if there is a concern about parental consent or being informed, I hope you're already having those conversations at home. And the thought of there being families that are not having conversations at home, that children would maybe be exposed to harm, is really concerning, where we would ask parents to consent.
Well, thank you.
Okay, the first one was the pronouns, parental notification. I would love it if all parents were supportive, but I just know that's not the case. And I would love for our schools to be a safe place to have those conversations and build the trust with the students. So unfortunately, that's not quite the case. It is in so many cases, but there is outliers.
Right.
You were asking about the
Eligibility
within right?
athletics.
Within athletics, yeah. So that one is it's such a small amount of students who that affects. It's disappointing that was the solution to kind of fix that issue with such a small amount of students. And I also have a bit of a problem with it just being the female identifying athletes who were asked to pick. But
Right.
And the last one was opt-in out for her sexual education.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one I feel like is the most widespread issue because, I mean, we all know that kids don't bring all their forms home, and we all know that parents don't send them all back.
Right.
And we also know that not every student has an education like that at home that they're getting. So unfortunately, I think it's going to fall to teachers to harass to get those papers back and then to plan a substitute plan to teach the kids who aren't getting it. And, that is in the curriculum, so I think it should be taught.
Right.
Okay. Well, honestly, I agree with it all, 100%. I believe we need to have fairness for girls in sports. I think biological males have an advantage in several ways over girls, and it's unfair. And as for the pronoun, and I just want to speak to that because I've heard a lot of commotion over having to get notice because we need to make sure they're biological and they're not a different gender. And to me, I know that all all parents have to submit a birth certificate when their children go to school. So I mean, if their child's going to be on the volleyball team, send that list down to the secretary. The secretary can pull that up in a matter of minutes. Everything's digital now. I don't think that's the real issue. And as for, notifying parents of pronoun use in school, I don't think there should ever be any secrets between parents and the school. I think there should always be open communication, and parents know what's best for their children, and I think that they need to be informed. So,
No, thank you.
Yeah.
For sure.
Sorry, what was the last one? Or I don't have to speak on that.
You can if you want. It's the opt-in change to instruction of human sexuality.
Oh, yeah, and I agree with that as well. Yes, I agree, like I said, with all that, so.
Thank you.
Okay, I did sort of write something down for all of them, but we'll see.
Yeah.
The first thing that I want to say is that I've heard our government and elected officials use the words and promise, transparency, honesty, and integrity. And I know that some of our guiding principles of the Grand Prairie Public School District, they ask questions such as, will it build trust and a good relationship when they're making decisions? Is it the responsible thing to do? And another question is, are we being open, honest, and ethical? I think that by providing parent notification of preferred pronouns that are being used are helping to foster trust, as well as an open and honest relationship between the parents and teachers, and between schools and the home. I guess the other one, that the reference one to the genders, I just thought that it helps to promote the integrity of sports and promote safety for all students. And parents should have a right to autonomy and the ability to choose opting in, which also gives them the choice to opt out.
And I guess on that one, the question is really focused around, we've had an opt-out system, and the system has been changed to opt-in, and if you had any feelings on that change.
No, I just really think that parents have the right to autonomy, and I think that should be encouraged and promoted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did write down some thoughts kind of on each one because I wasn't totally sure how the formatting would go.
Sure.
So with regards to parental notification and preferred pronoun use, I think that communication is really important and key between parents and the school. And so I think that is something that is really important. Recognizing though too that schools are a safe place for students. And I think that we need to approach that with a balanced approach, right? Is that making sure that young people have the places that they need to express themselves and to feel safe and supported. But at the same time, we also need to respect the fact that parents do have a role in being, engaged, and that they're supported as well. So I think that that's important. It needs to be a balanced approach, and communication is really the key thing there. As far as eligibility of athletes in sports according to gender, I really think that schools need to make sure that we're providing inclusive opportunities for students to play sports and to take part in different extracurricular activities, right? And so making sure that we have those things in place. We need to make sure that decisions are made in a way that are fair and inclusive and that considers the well-being of all individuals that are involved, right? So we need to make sure that if a young person that identifies as being transgender has a desire to play sports, that they get that opportunity, right? And so I think that we need to navigate that in a way that's fair and equitable. As a trustee, I would make sure that I approach it, using expert information and feedback that comes from trusted sources, and making sure that school administration is following through on any of the policies that were decided upon, right? So I think making sure that students are feeling supported and that our school administration and team are kind of following through on those recommendations and policies.
Yeah.
And then with regards to
the opt-in change on instruction about human sexuality?
Yeah, the opt-in change, I guess, on that front is that, parents definitely have the opportunity to, opt in or opt out as to what they want to provide, information they want to provide to their kids. I think as a school district and a school division, we have the responsibility to provide factual information that comes from trusted sources, and making sure that young people are making appropriate decisions for themselves when it comes to sexual education. So I think that providing them with facts and giving them the tools they need to make decisions is what's most important there.
And I just want to, if we can talk about that a little bit more, the change was from opt out, where parents would have a choice to say no, to now parents have to check yes to have their students do this. Does that have any feeling on that either way?
Not particularly. I mean, I think that,
That's okay. Yeah, thank you.
I do find it fairly concerning because they create exceptions to protections that are supposed to apply to all students, right? Like the Education Act already has welcoming, caring, safe, respectful learning environments as a core goal, right? Like it's one of the board's recommendations or responsibilities is to make sure that that applies to everybody. The Human Rights Act, it protects everybody from discrimination, and that includes all of those things, right? So those protections exist for a reason, and they don't have asterisks that say, well, except you, right? Like that's not cool. So I value parental involvement because Section 32 already determines that parents are the primary decision making. And I think that applies way outside the scope of what we're talking about. So when I've been in the spaces where they've talked about this, about parental rights, I've had to say, hey, I get it, but I also don't see myself in there because there's a lot of parental rights in terms of inclusion that are not getting the same kind of attention. And it gets messy. So it's weird for a platform to be, can we just do the Education Act as written? But that's kind of where I'm at. Like,
No, that helps. That really does. Yes. Yeah.
I am a clinical social worker. I have many thoughts on all of them.
Okay.
I think they are damaging. I think it is incredibly harmful to students. I think it is an overcorrection based on fear and myth. And I actually worry about how that will impact future groups. What is going to be the next group that's targeted? I believe that schools should be safe for all students, that we should try to our best of our ability to be free from discrimination. And obviously we have lots to do in that area. I think that kids should be allowed to be kids. I think they should be allowed to play sports. I think they should be allowed to explore who they are. I also think that it's really important that they are given accurate information so that they're not seeking answers from the internet. So I could go on and on and on and on and on, but basically I'm in favor of none of these ministerial orders, and I think they're quite damaging.
Thank you.
So can you tell me the first one?
Yeah. First was parental notification for preferred pronouns.
I don't agree with it, and I will tell you why. If a child comes to me and they divulge that to me and they haven't told their parents, there's a very good likelihood there's a reason why they haven't told their parents, and it's safety. And I really struggle with the fact that I would have to pick up a phone and put that child possibly in harm's way. I don't agree with it. It's a policy, it has to be done, but I don't agree with it.
Eligibility of athletes, and again, you don't need to speak to these if you don't want to, but eligibility of an athlete in sport according to gender.
No, I don't agree with that either. If they're going to do that, make it for all kids, not just girls. Make it for, those papers can be signed for all kids, not just girls. And I think we've gone down a slippery slope. I really do. It's a slippery slope.
The third one was the opt-in change to instruction about human sexuality.
That's going to cause a problem because there will be parents who forget to opt in.
Right.
People are busy. There will be children who need to be there but won't be allowed to be there, and they won't be getting it elsewhere except for possibly social media and on their phone. So I really think that was, I understand both sides of the coin there, but I do think it was a mistake. I think it would have been better to stay with the opt-out.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to say a few things about all of them, actually, beginning with parental notification of preferred pronoun use. So we deliberately set out to make our schools safe and caring and respectful because this is good for kids. It's in the legislation, it's in board policy, but we do it because we believe in it. And I've worked with a lot of teachers over the years, and I know darn well they believe in it too. Teachers and staff work very hard to build trusting relationships with students. Many students get to the point where they feel comfortable opening up to their teacher about their personal lives. And they often do it. They do it in confidence because they feel like they can confide in their teacher. They need often an impartial, supportive third party to confide in, but this policy destroys that for them. It takes that away from them. It's no longer can they trust the school. They can't tell their teacher their deep, dark secret because they know their teacher's going to tell their parents. And I think that undermines that trust, and it could expose some kids to harm because not every family is very supportive of the issue, gayism, if I can, I'm trying to think of a word, that's transgenderism and that kind of stuff. Not everybody supports that and understands it, so it makes things tough for them, and I think we have to make it easier for some of these people to function. We need to look beyond the dress and the hair and the makeup and see the person in the skin.
And then what was it? Eligibility?
Eligibility of athletes in sport according to gender. Well, I don't follow Facebook a lot, but it's absolutely blown up over this one. And the women out there are totally enraged, and I don't blame them, actually. I think it's very problematic, and it's an unnecessary imposition on families. I'm not sure how it's being operationalized, but I can imagine that the child would have to get a form signed by a family doctor. So what happens if they don't have a family doctor? It means going to the walk-in clinic and waiting all day, maybe having to come back tomorrow. I don't know. What if we have a lot of foreign students now. What if you're not born in Canada? Is it difficult? How difficult is it to prove that you were actually a female at birth? And how necessary is it really? I think you can deal with situations that crop up that might be controversial on an individual case-by-case basis and make a rational judgment with respect to those cases based on the evidence that appears before you, rather than painting everybody with the same brush. It's Peter MacKay called it ridiculous, and I can't argue with that. It is ridiculous. Opting in.
It's the opt-in change to
human sexuality.
And it was previously an opt-out.
Previously it was an opt-out. So for years the practice is that parents and guardians would get a note from the school that says we're teaching sex ed on this date at this time. And if you're not interested in having your child participate, fill out the little form below. Everybody took that letter home, and one letter or two would come back saying, yeah, my mom doesn't want me to have this. So we had 2 letters to deal with for your class. But now everybody takes the letter home, everybody brings the letter back, and somebody's got to sort through all of those and figure out who's in and who's not. And it's just, and the end result is going to be 1 or 2 kids are not in the program. It's the same result, and it's a bunch of extra work on very busy people as it is. One more thing added to their plate, and I don't think that's necessary. The end result isn't going to be different. You have to assume that people trust the school. A lot of people want the school to teach that kind of information to their kids because it's factually and scientifically accurate. And they're uncomfortable trying to teach their child about that, and they'd rather have somebody else do it, especially somebody they trust like a teacher. So, thank you.
Well, that one is kind of a yes or no for me. I agree with all of those orders. I don't think it's unreasonable that if a child wants to be called they them at school, that the parents are notified saying, hey, just to let you know your child wants to be they them. Okay, great.
Right.
That's not a big deal. It's just part of having open communication with the parents and the school.
And for under 15, the consent of the parents as well. Is that
Right.
the way that one works? So
Yeah.
that the parents would have to agree.
I
And
don't
then-
disagree with that.
The eligibility of athletes in sport according to gender.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that although I don't know how much of an issue it has been in our region, in general, I don't think that boys should be competing in girl-specific sports. I mean, there are sports that are co-ed, I guess, where there are girls and boys playing together, and that's okay too. But if it's specifically a girl sport and it's a boy that now identifies as a girl, you know, biologically they are still a boy and do have a physical advantage. So I would have to say I agree with that. Yeah.
And you don't need to, but if you want to, you can speak to the opt-in change for instruction about human sexuality.
I think it's reasonable that, they were saying how supposedly in the district that they were going to be sending out a letter for each, what's the word I'm looking for? Not subject, but for each module, I guess, on sexual
On human
health.
sexuality, yeah.
So why wouldn't at the beginning of the year you just send out one blanket form saying these are the topics of discussion throughout the year, check off all that you consent to.
Right.
And then there's only one form that goes out, so
Right.
that's an easy one to fix as far as I'm concerned. But definitely parents should have a say in what's being taught.
Thank you.
Yeah, how long do I have? I think it's really an interesting topic. So there's so many aspects of our education system which are complex and opaque, and which I would say parents and families can't give a reasonable opinion or educated decision on. So how should math best be taught? I might have an opinion because I'm an engineer, but I wouldn't expect an average family to really have a coherent opinion or principled opinion about how math should be taught in the division, about how science should be taught. That's why we have education professionals that know best practices. But I think what you see with the issues that you mentioned is everybody has an opinion on social issues, right? Because that's something that is so close to them. Everybody has they've got kids in our division, they've got a family, they've got, they likely have opinions about, especially these hot button topics in the media. So I think that explains the disproportionate amount of attention that's paid to some of these issues compared to really the good work going on every day in our division. And what's really unfortunate is kind of how the province has handled some of these issues is kind of the way that I've described it online, and I guess my go-to line for it is kind of creating these divisive wedge issues that try to drive apart parents and teachers. And I'm not trying to say it's purposeful or anything like that. I think it's just the reality of how these social issues, that really often affect such a tiny minority of students, when they get magnified to such an incredible degree, and it erodes public trust in the system. It hurts credibility of teachers. It worsens relationships, and it's not good for students. Obviously, with all three of those ministerial orders that you mentioned, we'll implement it to our best extent possible. I mean, that's our legal requirement to Alberta education. We turn the wheel of the province into reality. But I find it regretful the way that these issues are framed in the media, and I think that continued amplification of them mostly serves to drive parents and teachers apart, and it hurts students that are caught in the middle.
Thank you.